Hey guys, just want to take a moment to have a discussion about the recent policy change within the province of New Brunswick, effective February 1st, 2025. It has to do with rent control and rent cap increases for landlords on existing tenants. As I said at the start of this video, looking to start a conversation and get some opinions and thoughts from both renters and landlords to do with this new policy that's going to take effect in February. So, brief overview, 3% is going to be the new cap on landlords increasing rent on existing tenants. That's per year or every 12-month period. 6-month written notice must be given by the landlord to the tenants. I'm not against that. That's fine. Written notice is most certainly the best way to communicate with your tenants anyway, but giving them 6 months to see if they want to stay within that increase that's good business. So I'm fine with that. What's not so well known is that there's actually a provision for landlords, developers, investors that I can request as a landlord up to 9% of an increase per 12-month period. That doesn't just happen because I've requested it. I have to prove evidence or provide evidence, I should say, be it if I've done massive renovations, if I've purchased a property and those existing tenants are far below market value on those rents, then that's something that I can petition the government to try and get up to a 9% increase. Just want to touch base on a little bit that has happened in the dynamic change that has happened in New Brunswick since 2020 to the end of 2024. We had a lot of people moving here. We had supply chain issues for materials, lots of development being halted or stalled. So in 2020 to the end of 2024, our rents increased 34.2%. That sounds like a lot because it is a lot. It's a lot of money that tenants are having to pay. But we must keep in mind that across the country we were playing catch up. The national average of rents for 1-bedrooms to 3-bedroom units, both houses and multi-unit buildings, we were playing catch up, and that's not just urban centers, that's also in a lot of rural communities across our country. I'd like to use for this example on the numbers, it's one of our properties from our portfolio. It's a 2-bedroom, 1-bath house. This house does not have a garage, it just has a nice little storage shed. And like I said, they pay $1,300 a month. So under the new guidelines, us as landlords have to make the decision if we're going to raise the rent 3% this year or not at all. So are we going to raise rents on this tenant? So $1,300. If I increase it by 3%, I will take home $39 more per month. So both me and my partner will be raking in $39 a month. What does that mean for us? To me as a landlord, that seems fairly petty of an increase to tenants that have been nothing but respectful and great tenants for us. They pay their rent on time, they inform us immediately when there's issues with our property so we can take care of it and not damage our property. I think it's an insult to that tenant, but that's my opinion, and that's how I feel both me and my partner and a lot of landlords that aren't overly commercialized feel. but we'll move on when it comes to a 3 years compounded. So 3 years compounded, if I raise the rent 3% per year for 3 years, that tenant is now making $1,400, or making a payment to us of $1,420.54. It's quite an increase, but maybe it's justified, maybe it's not, depending on things increasing over time, such as property taxes, insurance, and utilities. I'm going to give you another example here. In 2018, I was a part owner in a duplex. We had tenants that stayed with us. They paid $975 per month in rent. 3 years goes by. Oh, things have went up. Property taxes have went up almost $600 a year. Insurance went up approximately $50 to $60 per month. Utilities stayed roughly the same. So with that in mind, this 2-bedroom duplex, I think we were going to raise our rents by about $100 a month, just to cover increase in expenses. So it keeps our profit margin the same, but the expenses are now covered by that $100 increase. If we use the same example for my tenants now, paying $1,300, and I raise it $39 this year, I know for a fact this past year my expenses have not raised $39 per month on that property. Next year, maybe it'll raise by $50. That's the gamble now with the government's policy that I have to, and my partner has to, make the decision. Are we going to keep increasing while we can? Because in 3 years, maybe we are out $100 a month, $90 a month, $120 a month. Well, I can't wait 3 years to raise it $100 because that would be against the rules. I now have to project what my increases are going to be in expenses. What does that mean? It means I've got to make a decision as a property owner on if I'm going to keep up with expenses or cut my tenants a break, and I lose out on money 3 years, 4 years, 5 years, 10 years down the line. If I'm lucky enough to have a tenant 10 years and I only increase it, say, once at 5 years at 3%, I'm still only getting $39 more on that $1,300. And then if it goes to 10 years and I increase it again, well, now I'm up only 6% over the course of 10 years. And as opposed to having a conversation, sitting down, treating each other with respect and saying, hey, you've been here for 5 years. How does a $150 increase sound? And probably the way with market rents and everything going up in 5 years, $150 would be something that they would agree to, as opposed to being up over, closer to $200 to $225. So getting back to the main point of why I'm using this example of $1,300. Over the course of 3 years, the compound interest on that puts us at $1,420.54. That's what the tenant will be now making in a rent payment in 3 years at 3% per year increase. If we use my track record from a previous property I owned, I would say probably about that $100 is what the increase would be after 3 years of my expenses going up: property taxes, insurance, and utilities. Those are the only things that a landlord and a tenant cannot control. Those are government and private businesses that increase their rates at will. And there's nothing we can do as consumers. We just have to pay them. So, like I said, if it's $1,420.54 that the tenant is making, I was going to increase it by $100 after approximately 3 years. That puts the tenant paying $20.54 more per month to me, the landlord. It doesn't sound like a lot of money, but this is what you get when the government feels that they're going to put a restriction on something that should be controlled by the market, be it supply and demand. Like I said, in our area here, we have some pretty good movement when it comes to our population. There's some great development that's happening here. If those units come online and people can now rent them within the next 2-3 years, and my rents have to drop and adjust for me to get great tenants in it, well then so be it. That's the nature of this business. But rents will never drop if the government is controlling how much you can charge for rent and how you can increase it. So, like I said, you'll have some tenants move out if they can find cheaper rent down the way, but at the end of the day, it'll balance out that those landlords next year will be raising it by 3 to 9% if they get the exception. So for the next little bit, we'll see that rent increases will stop at around that 3%. But don't be surprised if a lot of people that are buying properties and developing properties they're going to be charging a higher market rent when they go to rent these places, because they know they will not be able to keep up with the rate of insurance, utilities, and property taxes. I can get on a pretty long rant and make its own video when it comes to property taxes. I just got mail today that said our property taxes were going up substantially across most of our properties with the exception of one. Not only that, I know a work colleague that I have that was on his Facebook. He got a nice little business card, either in his mail or on his door, I'm unsure which, that said, please be kind and courteous to your property tax assessors. They will be on your property throughout the next, small period of time. They'll be looking to inspect your property. Let's not be fooled, regardless of what might be said by that person that has to unfortunately come to your door and do their job. The government's never going to lower your property taxes. They're coming there to see if they can get a little bit more money out of you. And those are big problems for property owners that will have to, if they rent their properties out, pass that cost onto their tenants. So we'll stay tuned on that part. Back to the point at hand with this case study and using these numbers as an example, $1,300, 3 years at 3% per year compounded, we end up having $1,420.54 is what my tenant will now be paying me and my partner. If I was a betting person and knowing how I feel and how I know I would want to be treated as a tenant, I know probably in a 3-year period I'd be raising it $100, just like I had shown that I was going to do back in 2018 to 2021. The tenant's out an additional $20.54. Doesn't sound like a lot, but if we forecast this out 5 and 10 years, that long-term tenant who's treated my property with respect, treated us with respect, we've treated them in kind, they will be out much more money than just people treating people with respect, and also allowing the market to dictate what I can charge in rent as a landlord. I have no problem if they're developing a lot of units here within our community, and rightfully so. If those markets that hit if these units that hit the market over the next 2-3 years make our rents go down, well then that's appropriate. That's what the market is dictating for our area. I know that's the risk of being an investor. What I don't like is the government meddling in people's businesses and people's choices on how to run their business. It affects the customer, and in this case it happens to be the tenant the most, especially good tenants, good customers. I don't know why they feel that this policy is going to help New Brunswick residents when it is shown in other markets and other areas in North America to actually cause more money and money issues, and rent increases tend to cripple smaller businesses. The bigger corporations don't care because they've already got huge property management companies that will increase your rent every year. Does not matter. Well, that's not what a lot of us are in New Brunswick. Just looking to wrap this video up, guys, and I just want to make sure that this point is driven home, that the government has portrayed itself to be good. They're prevailing over evil, if that means that's success, if that means that it's profit. Any way that they are looking outward instead of inward to the problems of accessible and affordable housing in our province and in our communities. Like I said, there are many things that are making rent go up, and very little of it has to do with greedy landlords. I'm sure there are some, just like in any profession and any business, but at this point, rising property taxes, rising of utilities, these are things that our local elected officials can help us with, can help us pass on those savings to our tenants. And if they want to help us in that regard and then put a cap on how we can raise rents, well, then I'm all ears to hear their suggestions. But as it stands right now, it's a tough pill to swallow for us smaller landlords out here trying to provide a nice, safe, and secure spot for someone to live, and at the end of the day, not take home any profit. I'd really like to have a conversation with anyone who wishes to have a conversation with me about it. You can either comment on this video on YouTube or write us on Facebook, Instagram, or TikTok. We'll get back to you as soon as we can. And hey, if you have a difference of opinion on this topic, I'd love to hear it as well, because I love to learn if maybe I'm missing something here. All right, thanks guys for watching.